computer. All right, good. Share screen. La la la. Okay. Here we go. This is the presentation. Again, it's Jackie Almer. Welcome to the Send Out Success Team and Team Ignite weekly call. Appreciate you all being here. We do this on Zoom sometimes. Most of the time we do it on our regular conference line, but I wanted to go through this presentation. I did this presentation at the SendOutCards Sauk, Arizona Super Saturday a week ago. So first part of May, I did this on Cinco de Mayo. May 5th actually, and I thought it might be good to do now because the reason I chose this topic for that particular event is because I feel like selfless service and selfless giving and creating that culture really aligns very nicely with the whole mission of Send Out Cards. I know with my own personal mission, and it fits in beautifully with our new subscription plans that we have. So we're going to talk about some different ways to create that for yourself. Now let me see if I can. There we go. I just needed to hide everybody so I can see my slides. Okay. So this is what we're going to cover. We're going to cover culture and what that means. Talk about selfless giving. Talk about the laws of the universe and some of those universal laws and how they play into what we put out in the world and what we get back from the universe. We'll talk about some must-reads. I'm going to cover 4 really important books that I want to share with you. And then we'll talk a little bit about selling to the values and knowing why people buy, because that's a big part of it too. I have focused on what I call success language for a long time, and I just feel like it's a key thing to get going. Now, just quickly, my story, most of you know who I am, but for those of you who don't, I'll keep it fairly brief. I have been a network marketing professional now for about 24 and a half years. I'm one of those that came into network marketing kicking and screaming. I used to think network marketing was one of those things for people who couldn't get a real job, didn't ever see myself in the profession, but as someone who was looking to stay home full-time with my children and have a business that was more than just a play income, a hobby income, everything kept pointing back to network marketing. I was friends with Jordan Adler, who's our top income earner in Send Out Cards. We were actually friends. We met at the gym in Tempe, Arizona years ago when we both worked for America West Airlines. My husband did as well as a pilot. And we met because we were part of that 5:30 a.m. club, the people that had to go to the gym before they went to their JOB. And we met and became friends. And he was the first person who talked to me about network marketing. Got started with him in a company, did well in that company over time. With a lot of different things that happened, that company is no longer around today. And I went my way, Jordan went his way, and he joined Send Out Cards. I had heard about Send Out Cards when they first started and thought it was a brilliant concept, but it was kind of funny because the interesting thing is, I thought the cards were kind of goofy. They were kind of flimsy card stock. A lot of times the photos didn't print clearly. And it's kind of interesting because we're struggling through a few of those challenges right now as we transition over to our new platform. And it's kind of funny because I keep thinking to myself, if you just stick with it and keep sending people cards, technology glitches happen all the time. That kind of stuff, you know, it does show up in the world. But if you'll just stick with it, then you can show people, you know, what our system's really like and they can make a comparison. Because over the course of time, I always thought it was such a great system, but didn't get involved, didn't start my Send Out Cards business for actually 6 years after I found out about it and 5 years after Jordan contacted me and started sending me cards. So the moral of that story is, as a follow-up system, it works. And the best thing that you can do to grow your business and increase your center of influence and grow those referrals is continue to send cards to people, whether they're interested in the card business or not. And I'm not talking about prospecting cards. I'm talking about thinking of you cards, saw your pictures on Facebook cards, happy birthday cards, oh my gosh, your new grandchild looks amazing, just different things like that. I hand selected, I was a little late to the game of thinking this, but I picked about 25 moms that I sent cards to, or I grabbed their photo off of Facebook and sent out Mother's Day cards. A lot of them were friends from high school, and it was photos of them and their grandchildren as well as their children and that type thing. And that got a lot of really great response. Now, I don't know that it's going to lead to anything business-wise with them, but I know that what you put out in the universe comes back to you. So I know that over time, it definitely will. Okay, so let's talk about that giving economy. Let's talk about creating culture, because we live in a very noisy world. We all know it. We are addicted to this little small screen a lot of the time. I know I am. I'm the first to confess. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. But today, with social media, it's a wonderful thing, and it's also not a wonderful thing in the sense that sometimes we allow it to replace the human touch. I always laugh because it's like, yeah, you get a bunch of Facebook messages on your birthday, but most people didn't really remember it was your birthday. Facebook told them it was your birthday. Now we have a great reminder system within SendOutCards, so we can stay ahead of the game, but it's so important that we don't lose the human touch, because I believe that more and more as we get bombarded with marketing messages and we deal with platform overwhelm, and what I mean by that is I may send somebody a text message, they answer me by email, I answer them back by email, and then they'll send me something on Facebook Messenger. And so we've got 3 different platforms for the same conversation. Some of you could probably relate to exactly what I'm talking about. So it's, it's easy to miss things. It's easy to misconstrue things when you're reading the interpretation of a text or the written word that somebody else writes. But the reality of it is, getting a card in the mail or a gift in the mail or something like that, it feels good no matter what's going on, and it really does make a difference. So that's one of the first things that we can do to begin to create that culture and that build that brand and that culture for ourselves. Now I want to talk about culture because at the convention, I actually spoke on building your brand. And the culture that you create within your business is a part of what your brand is. It's very much like your brand. You want to make that culture within your own life and within your business very, very attractive and compelling to others so that they want to be a part of it. You want to put stuff out there enough into the world that people start responding to you, posting things on your wall and tagging you and different things like that, that gets some people to ask, what is it exactly that you do? Now, SendOutCards has the best culture, and I've said this all along, and my husband has said this too, as someone who's not actively involved in building a network marketing business. He was for the first few years when we launched in network marketing many, many years ago, 24 years ago. But to this day, now in this day and age, he doesn't build the business with me, but he's very supportive of it. And he's always said the same thing. SendOutCards is so amazing. The culture's amazing. Just being back at convention in Salt Lake and surrounded by so many positive people who truly care about making a difference for others, you just can't beat that culture. So when we build on that with our personal brand and our personal business, it's really staggering. And it's like I say, the universe will absolutely reward you. It absolutely will. And we'll talk about that here in a minute with the laws of the universe. So just quickly, what is a brand and how does your culture fit into that? Your brand is defined by your clients, prospects, and others' perception of your business. Okay, it's not what you say your business is. It's not what you say your brand is. It's not what you say your culture is. It's what others say about you. So when you think about SendOutCards and being part of a giving economy and selfless service and making a difference, a big part of your brand, you really want it to be those random acts of kindness where you grab something off of Facebook and you send it in a card. I actually had the mother of a good friend of mine. She posted a photo with all the family around celebrating her for Mother's Day. She's in her 80s. Very active, still hikes and all that type of stuff. But I just happened to catch it this morning, and I sent her a belated Mother's Day card with that photo right on the front. And that's the kind of stuff that makes a difference to people, that helps build your brand and build your culture. And as you begin to do that over time with people, they will refer you when the time is right, when somebody's looking for a follow-up system, or they're thinking about doing their holiday cards, or whatever it is. When you've put yourself out there, not just posting about it on Facebook yourself, that's not building a brand as much as it is advertising and annoying people in many cases. Let other people advertise that for you. If you go look at my wall from yesterday, I think starting on Saturday, you'll see a number of photos in there where I was tagged with a personal card that I had sent to people for Mother's Day. So just different things like that. That's what helps build your brand, and then it's what clients, prospects, and others say. And one of my very good friends from childhood posted, I always love getting Jackie Elmer's SendOutCards. I really should start doing it myself, or take notice and send out more cards, something along those lines. So, just little things like that. And those are the type of things that build your brand and advertise and market for you. And those things are priceless because you don't ever have to say a word. You can just comment on it, like it yourself, that type thing. But that helps to build your brand and build that referral base. So what is selfless giving? Well, what goes around comes around. You've heard that a million times, and most of us know it to be true. So how do you go about doing this selfless giving? Well, I call it a gut check, and I also call it a Facebook check, to be honest with you, because what I do every day, one of the first things that I do in the morning as part of my gratitude and part of my morning routine is I go onto Facebook, not to post or anything, but I just say to God, put the right people in front of me who need to hear from me today. And then I look and see what's in there, and I don't try to second guess it, but I'll pick 3, 4, 5 people, sometimes even 10, and grab a couple of photos, put it in a card, and send it to them. Okay, so that's a good gut check on selfless giving. And today, with our new plans and packages, our $97 and $147 unlimited individual sends, it's amazing. As I mentioned, I've sent out over 720, I know for sure, individual send cards in just over a month, in about 33 days. All of those are individual send. Now, I have a process for doing it. Many of them have the same photo on the front, same photo on the inside, and then on the inside right panel is where I personalize it, or on the bottom panel if it's a flip-up card, whatever those are called, horizontal. But that's a way that you can really get out there. And when I think about that, it's like, that's brilliant. It's allowing me to very easily and quickly get out there with my brand. Because the reality of it is, I'm someone who attends a lot of networking events. I have piles and piles and envelopes and of business cards. But there's a saying that we have, and that saying is about leads and prospects. It's not how many you do, it's how well you do a few. So instead of constantly going networking, take a step back for a minute. And if you haven't followed up and really worked the network that you've already started to develop, do that. And I'm going to have another training session on exactly how to segment, because I mentioned this as we were all just kind of chatting at the beginning of the call, how to segment your list. That database that's in there in your SendOutCards back office is priceless. So you want to really begin a process of 365 days of giving and detach from the outcome. Sometimes people, when they first get started in SendOutCards and they start sending cards, birthday cards, hey, nice to meet you, I'm catching up, I'll get a call from them. They'll say, well, I didn't hear from anybody. Should I call them? It's like, no, if you're sending a birthday, if you went to Hallmark and got a birthday card and mailed it, would you call them in a few days and say, hey, did you get my birthday card if you didn't hear from them? No, you wouldn't. But because now we have this business and we have our brand on the back, ideally, we're hoping that we're going to hear from them. Advertising 101 tells us, and follow-up statistics tell us, it takes anywhere from 5 to 12 times for people to begin to act on anything that they see. Okay? So you have to be willing to stay in the game and stick with it for that long for it to show up for you. So these are just a few of the laws of the universe. Law of vibration, meaning we're vibrational beings. When you're having a bad day, it's amazing how negative things can show up for you because you're driving through traffic all steamed anyway and somebody cuts you off, or you don't make it through the yellow light because somebody stopped too soon, or whatever it is. Somebody steals your parking spot, different things like that. We have the law of action. This is a very, very important law, meaning it's great to focus on the law of attraction and some of these other things, but the law of action, when it's inspired action, is what's going to take you where you really want to go. So those are the ones that I want to focus on: law of attraction, law of action. Okay, so we attract what we put out there, but we have to be putting out there. That's the action piece of it. We want to be in a feel-good place when we do it, and then ultimately it creates the law of reciprocity. And the law of reciprocity is, if I give you a gift, or I send you a card, or I do something nice for you, very often it's human nature that our tendency is to want to then give that person something back, whether it's mail them a card or post something nice on Facebook, whatever it is. Reciprocity comes back in a number of ways. Definitely comes back in a number of ways. And I'm going to talk about that as we go through, and I talk a little bit about these 4 must-reads. So the 4 must-read books, I'm going to go through these in order. The first one is giftology. Gifting is an asset, okay? And I have to thank Brenda Wise, who introduced this to us on a call probably 2 or 3 months ago. She mentioned it, and then I ordered it, and I love it. This John Rulin, you can see his name on the slide. I've listened to a number of his podcasts now because I listen to podcasts, I use the Stitcher app, and I could just go in the search box and type his name in there, and boom, a lot of his different interviews. And it was very interesting to listen to a number of his interviews on how he's used this. Now, he takes it to, a really big degree in that he literally outfitted a hotel room with over $7,000 of Brooks Brothers clothing to impress someone who he was trying to get in front of, and left a note there that said, pick what you want. Please let me know, pick out whatever it is that you want, send the bill to me basically, and I'll cover it. Well, long story short, it didn't end up costing him anything, because the guy basically said, nobody has ever made me feel like that. That was amazing. I'm not going to let you pay for any of this. I've picked out what I want, and you can either let me know how much it is, or I'm going to write you a check for what I know is at least 3 times the amount of that, because you made your point. And it was amazing, and I'm all ears. You can talk to me about whatever you want. And so at the end of the day, it didn't cost him anything. Now, most of us don't have $7,000 to go and do that, but you can start with a card. You can start with a pack of brownies. I meant to get some of my little, but they're back in my office, and I'm not in my office tonight. Just the little gift size card, the card size gifts that you can send, someone's thinking of you, and the little tokens that we have, just little things like that make a difference for people and appreciate them. It takes so little effort to pay it forward. Some people like to do the pay it forward in Starbucks, and I think that's a great thing too. But if you wanted to use SendOutCards for that, instead of paying it forward with Starbucks, you could send a Starbucks gift card, certainly randomly send those out, but you could send out those little card-sized gifts too. Randomly set it up in your budget that, X number a week, you're going to randomly send out and put it out into the universe. Now, one thing that you want to do, and we talk about this a lot, is if you're going to enact this giftology and do some random gifting in your business, knowing that it will come back to you through the law of reciprocity and cause and effect and all those, and law of attraction, what you want to do is you want to do so when it will have the most impact. So case in point, I do send Christmas cards, but to most of those on my prospect list or business prospects, I send Thanksgiving cards. I send either Valentine's or St. Patrick's cards, sometimes both. I send 4th of July cards. I send Halloween cards. I try to get people's attention at those times when I know that nobody else is going to be tapping them. Now, you've heard me say before, I have a son serving in the Marine Corps. So now 2 days that are 3 days, well, July 4th has always been big for me, but, and that's not so much a military holiday, but Memorial Day is coming up. And so I've already put together a card campaign that I'm going to be sending for sure to those people who I know served in the military. And then Veterans Day is another day, just to remember those special times and just kind of pay it forward. So think about when you're gifting, your card sending will have the most impact. Okay, the next book is A Simple Act of Gratitude. I think I've called this 365 Days of Gratitude before. Marie, I know you said the new name of it. I think you said it earlier on the call, and I thought, I think I've just called it by the wrong name a number of times. Or maybe he did change it, but I don't think so. Oh, wait, he did. You're right. Sorry. Previously published as 365 Thank Yous. The year A Simple Act of Daily Gratitude Changed My Life. Okay, good. Then I'm not going crazy. I thought that I was. So now it's called A Simple Act of Gratitude. And this book, this is a true story. He's an attorney out in the LA area whose life was falling apart. He was in his mid-50s. I think he was working on his 3rd divorce. His kids didn't speak to him. He had, basically moved out of his house, was living in a little dinky, crummy apartment, and he was on the verge of filing bankruptcy. Like, everything was falling apart. And he went hiking with a buddy, and he was just kind of belly aching about how, pitiful his life was, et cetera. And the guy said, you know what? I'm going to make a suggestion to you. And instead of focusing on what's going wrong in your life, why don't you spend a little bit of time every day focusing on some things that are right in your life? And so he started thinking about that, and his ex-girlfriend at the time had sent him a thank you card for a Christmas gift that he had sent her. She had done a handwritten note, even though they had broken up, and that made an impact. And so he just decided to send a thank you card, a gratitude card to one person every single day. And at the end of the year, you wouldn't even recognize his life. Oh, his health was failing too. He was hiking every day. He had lost weight. He was way out of bankruptcy. He'd been named a judge. His law practice was thriving. He was back together with his ex-girlfriend, and I think they were engaged. His daughter and his kids were speaking to him again. He was on great terms with his ex-wife. Like, he repaired all these relationships. He just started making a difference and started focusing on gratitude. And literally at the end of 1 year, every aspect of his life was turned around. So if I don't challenge you with anything else tonight, I want to challenge you to read this book and just take it on for yourself. Take it on for yourself. 365 days. Now, here's the kicker with that. If you don't do it every single day, that's okay. You can make it up. Send 2 cards on one day. I think I missed Saturday of sending cards. I didn't send a single card. I think it was on Saturday. And I had a goal to do every single one, but I had to go to Flagstaff for a graduation. It was just crazy. And I thought, you know what? I'm just not going to get my app out and do it. I'm just going to be in the moment, whatever. And I released myself of that, frustration that I didn't get that day. But I've sent over 700 in 30 days, 31 days. So I've more than made up for that. And many of those, at least half of those, have been gratitude cards, random acts of thinking of you, photos off of Facebook, and that type thing. So that's an important part. So if I leave you with nothing else, get a simple act of gratitude and put it into your own life for 365 days and keep me posted what happens. Okay, the next one of my favorite authors about the new economy and the social media economy, and that's Gary Vaynerchuk, and he wrote The Thank You Economy, which interestingly is his lowest selling book. But it really is amazing because it talks about the impact that the internet and social media is making is creating for making a difference as a business owner, because it gives consumers a voice. And if you're mad at a company, you can give them a bad review on Yelp, or you can tweet them something, or you can post on their Facebook wall. You can let your voice be heard. And today, big businesses can't just cover everything up by throwing marketing dollars at it. So again, as part of creating your culture and creating yourself and your brand to be known as part of the thank you economy, you have the ability to become a winner and harness the voice of social media through what you give and put out in the world. Again, case in point, go look at my Facebook wall from the last 2 days. Lots of nice posts on there from people who I sent cards to with photos. Okay, and it's going to keep happening because I'm doing a lot of that. And I'm no different than anybody else. Gail Zintak has talked about that for years. Brian Perez talks about it. Jordan talks about it. You see lots of people within the company sharing in private groups and different things like that, how that has worked for them, how they've created a referral-based business. And the beauty of it is you don't have to ask people, oh, if you liked my card, go share it over on Facebook. You don't have to do that. Okay, if you just keep sending those cards, enough people will put it out there. Some people are going to private message you. I got a lot of nice text messages and Facebook messages for a lot of my cards too. In fact, I just got one today from someone who had to put their dog to sleep, and she has 2 young children. She's a single mom. And so I took photos, a bunch. I probably pulled 16 photos with the dog, with the kids, with all that, and put it into a card. And she just texted me today and said, oh my gosh, that was a beautiful tribute. I cried, my kids cried, we love it though, and it's on the refrigerator. So again, those are the kind of things that make a difference. She didn't post it on social media, but that's okay, because I know what I'm putting out there is going to come back to me. So the thank you economy and understanding how social media, how we're making a difference in creating our culture and our brand through being a giving culture makes a huge difference. Now, the 4th book is Disruptive, and you've heard me talk about this before. You can't buy this book, although I did have a heckler in Phoenix because I had a gal sitting in the front row who was a guest, and every single thing I said, she would go look it up. And if I had one little thing off, she would correct me. And I finally laughed and I looked at her and I said, are you my heckler today? And she started laughing and everybody started laughing. But it was pretty funny because you really can't buy this book. Now, she found it for sale either on eBay or Amazon by someone who shouldn't be selling it. It's not by Amazon itself, but there's only 3,000. It even says in here, there's only 3,000 copies in print, and it says not for resale. Okay, 3,000 copies in circulation. So I had to show her that so that I could tell her I'm not lying about this. I actually ended up being invited to meet with a gal I'm doing some business with. to meet her for a one-on-one, and we met at this commercial real estate office. And when I walked in, they had this book and they had this big punched out thing. They have it in this big lit up like, square glass case with lighting and all this other stuff. And it was interesting. I got there early and I saw the lobby copy sitting there, and I started looking through it, and it totally describes what we do. It's disruptive, how to disrupt your industry through selfless service. And it's fascinating. And he's a local guy. He's from Phoenix, and I'm actually doing a workshop in his facility on Thursday. I'm super excited because they give back, and he allows people to use their training rooms and training facilities and different things like that free of charge, because they want to get people through their doors. But he had totally changed his corporate culture after years of being the hard charger in commercial real estate and, all about the bottom line and everything else. And he realized that was just making him miserable. So he has a saying, and you'll see it on the screen, and that's culture eats strategy for breakfast. So part of his strategy is to have a good culture, and that will create the strategy that you need for succeeding in your business. Absolutely. So, the question to lead with: how might I support you? How might I help you in your business? How might I help you be more successful? Those type things. That gets interest every single time. And even with SendOutCards, the thing that's so cool about creating a win-win is asking that question: do you have a system in place for following up with and acknowledging and expressing gratitude to your clients, to your referral partners, to people who you want to do business with? It's a win-win because most of the time people say no. And then you can easily introduce, what about $97 or $147 a month to be able to do unlimited cards and postage to get your name out in front of all of those business cards that you collect when you're out networking, and people that you run into, and people who've done business with you, and establishing that database. So that's a big part of it. And through all of this, the big thing is truly expect to win. Expect to win. Expect that the right things, the right people are going to show up at the right times if you keep doing things the way that you want to be doing them. Case in point, I went pretty quickly from senior manager to senior executive. I double promoted in the month of October. So interestingly, I've sponsored a number of people as referral partners into my senior executive code that I had been working on for a long time. My mantra really is the right people show up at the right time in the right place. Okay, so I don't ever get frustrated. Okay, I do occasionally, but for the most part, I don't get frustrated when somebody says no or the timing isn't right. My mantra just becomes, when the time is right, they'll come into the right place in my business. And I wholeheartedly believe that that will happen. And so bottom line, be the best you can with what you have and where you are. And that kind of comes down to gifting and giving too. At very least with our $97 a month plan, you can send, even if you sent 100 cards, that's $1 a card, basically including postage. Imagine sending 200 cards or more. What's that going to do for your business? What's that going to do for your business? I promise you it's going to do amazing things if you just do it. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Hit the wrong button. I was trying to go forward. Okay, now I think you guys can see it. Okay, so then the next question becomes, how do you sell to people? Because we talk about all this give, and then it's like the action part of it is doing all that, but then also, what is the selling process? What are we going to do to sell their value? Well, a big thing is, everybody has a dog barking in the background. So if that's you, you might mute your line. I thought I had everybody muted. I think I do now. Okay. Oops. I can't go back. Yes, I can. No. There we go. Okay. So how do you sell the pen? How do you sell the card service? How do you do that? Well, you start by sharing it with them to begin with, and then understanding why it would be important to them. Why it would be important. So at ANMP last year, the Association of Network Marketing Professionals, they had a speaker that talked about personality profiles to determine the buying behaviors. Okay, personality profiles to determine buying behaviors. So if you haven't had a chance to do this for yourself, take about 90 seconds. I want to make sure, oh good, I had to make sure that that you guys could still see me and hear me. You can go to JackieElmer.com/bank or check with somebody in your upline. I know Marie has a code, Elizabeth has a code. There's some different things that you can do. You can take this personality profile and it's gonna help you in about 90 seconds understand a little bit more about yourself and then ultimately learn to understand more about the buying behaviors of other people. Because we focus on that a lot, and I mentioned over the course of time I've spent a lot of time focusing on success language, but most personality profiles tell you only about you, but they don't necessarily tell you about the other person, what their buying behaviors are, and how you can best appeal to them through the presentation that you share with them. So make sure you understand how to sell to people's values, because people buy based on value. In fact, I mentioned Robin Sharma, and I heard him say, I'm trying to think of the exact phrase that he used, but basically monetary success, that's not the word he used. I'll have to listen to it again and post it out there, but it basically comes down to the perceived value that you put out into the marketplace. People buy based on the value that they're going to receive. Think about your own buying habits, okay? It's whatever you see as the value that makes the difference to you. So at the end of the day, with all of this, with your giving, with all of that, make sure you're staying very authentic and true to yourself. That's such an important part of it. Stay authentic and true to yourself. Be real, be genuine, and don't be a copy of anybody else. Be yourself. So how do you start with this? How do you start creating that culture? How do you start creating that culture of giving, of selfless giving, and putting things out there? Well, it's like anything. The first thing that you have to do is make a commitment. And remember kind of what we started with. It's what you do consistently day in and day out that makes a difference in your business. That's what will make a difference. So first and foremost, it starts with the commitment. The commitment to send 1 random card a day, or 2 random cards a day, or 3 random cards a day. If you send 4 random cards a day and you're on the $97 plan, okay, your cards are less than $1 a card, and that's amazing. That's an amazing marketing budget no matter what. I look at so many health and nutritional companies where you're looking at $150 to $200 a month for products that come in, that some of them you could maybe sample out or do whatever, but when you think about the money that we personally invest in our business on a monthly basis is our marketing budget too. It's our ability to put things out there and share our business in a way that's authentic and giving and caring and creates that win-win. It's amazing. So make the commitment and then set a budget. Start with one of those 2 plans, 97 or 147, and then figure out what are you going to do from a gifting strategy, whether it's little card-sized gifts. Set a budget for yourself that includes postage and includes the cost of gifts, because those are not included in the 97 or 147 for shipping on gifts and that type thing. So you want to factor that in. So figure out what your budget is, set that budget, and then begin to be random. Just like you've heard before, just like I shared. What shows up in your Facebook newsfeed? What can you look around? What event are you at that you can see something that you can snap a photo and send it to that person and just say, hey, I thought you might want a memory of this. Because again, nobody prints their pictures anymore. When you can put it in a card, it makes a huge difference. Set a goal for 5 cards a day. That's 150 cards a month. If you're on the $147 plan, that's less than $1 a card, and you get those 100 campaign sends. In addition to that, you just pay postage on it. And then expand your database by asking. I sent my athletic director of my high school, who I'm now friends with on Facebook, I sent him a card. It was his birthday in April. I sent a card with beautiful photos of his children, his wife, his grandkids, and a box of brownies. And I just simply sent him a private message and said, hey, I want to send you something. What's your address? He had that address back to me in 30 seconds. He didn't even blink, and he absolutely loved it. So the power in asking is just that. It's powerful. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. But if you do ask and you position it in a way, now I know Jordan likes to say, hey, I'm updating my contact manager. What's your best mailing address? I like to do it differently and say, oh my gosh, your birthday's coming up. What's your mailing address? Or, oh my gosh, I saw your Mother's Day photos on Facebook. It looked amazing. I want to send you something. What's your mailing address? Jordan's is great, and I think that works, and I'm not negating that at all. But when you can set some anticipation for them of what they're going to get if they send it to you, knowing that something's coming, you'll get it much more quickly. And in most cases, they won't be like, should I give it or not? What are they going to send me? You've already positioned what you're going to send them. And now you have the opportunity to follow up, send other random cards and that type thing. So bottom line, send lots of cards, make them personal. These are all just examples of different cards that I've sent over time to people that are random that have gotten exposure. You'll see some social media posts there and different things like that. 10 cards a day. This is what I had printed off for the presentation that I did. That was back on the 5th of May. So for the first month, I sent 308 cards. And from 5/1 to 5/5, I sent 148 cards just in a 5-day period. So that just kind of gives you an example, putting that 10 cards a day in play. Oops. So that's basically it. Have fun, make a difference, practice that for 365 days, and absolutely watch what shows up in your business. So that's what I have. Marie, I believe you are going to share a little bit with us now on your experience with the book, the 365, or the book that changed names.
Right. Thank you, Jackie. Great call. Great content. Jordan's call is coming up in about a minute and a half. So quickly, this is the book that I read at Jackie's recommendation almost 6 years ago, now named A Simple Act of Gratitude. I reread it this past week and talked about it in my networking event this morning. Jackie talked about all of the wonderful things that have happened to this man's life within 365 days, basically. But from a business point of view, I just want to say he sent thank you messages, thank you notes to people who paid their bills. And you know what? They began to pay their bills even sooner than when they were due. And he sent notes of gratitude to his employees because, remember, he was so down and out, he couldn't give them Christmas bonuses in 2007. So he sent notes of gratitude, and what he began to realize is within the office, people started sending notes of gratitude to each other or emails of gratitude to each other. So he created a whole lot more loyalty within his own workforce. And he was amazed also because he was getting thank you cards and phone calls for the thank you cards that he was sending. Now, doesn't that sound familiar? We all get those as well. So I can't recommend highly enough that you personally read this book. I'm sorry I waited 5.5 years to read it again, but I was reminded as to why it's so important to read it. So with that, thank you all for being on. It's time for Jordan's Zoom call, so jump on Zoom, and Jordan always has a great message for us. So thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.